Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Apples and Genos Fantasy Hockey Podcast. My name is Nate Groot Niblink. I'm the creator of Apples and Genos, originator of the Zero G draft strategy, and contributor to Yahoo Fantasy. In this podcast, Blake and I are going to talk through 7 sleepers who could emerge from the late rounds to become difference makers on your fantasy squads. Are you ready? Let's hit it. Now, as always, I have your friend and my best friend, Blake Creamer, with me here. Blake, how are we feeling tonight?
Buddy, I'm feeling good, but also, I have a little bit of FOMO. I saw you and Josh got to business on an experts draft, and I wasn't invited. I haven't achieved expert level yet. I mean, in terms of Apples and Geno's hierarchy, I've attained the rank of Pussy Willow. All right, and I'll get there. I'll get there soon, but I'm stoked. Also, full disclosure, I'm literally doing a draft while we do our podcast. So, this is what we do. This is how we get the biz here at Apples and Geno's. Let's go.
If we hear Blake just muttering Boone Jenner, Boone Jenner, Boone Jenner throughout different parts of the podcast, you know exactly what's happening. He does that in his sleep, but usually not during a podcast.
Yeah, it's seeping into my personal life. Yeah, it's a problem.
All right. Well, we are talking about some sleepers here. We've got 7 sleepers. I even threw in an honorable mention at the end here because there's another player that I just had to get in there. First off, how do we determine who qualifies as a sleeper? You got to have some sort of criteria. You can't just call anybody a sleeper and expect to get away with it. The YouTube comments will keep you accountable for such things. By the way, if you have not yet, you should subscribe to Apples and Genos on YouTube. That would help us out. We're building ourselves up over there. Added I think 250 subscribers in the last month over on YouTube. So if you haven't done that already, please do head over there and help us out with the subscription. But our qualifications for sleeper here, we decided on it has to be 150 plus average draft position on both Fantrax and Yahoo. We know there's some pretty big disparities on some players between the two platforms, so we decided, let's just make it even across both. Has to be 150 picks or later on both Fantrax and Yahoo. That's going to be like your 13th round plus in a 12-team league. So obviously pretty late in your drafts, you're taking guys that you want to have some upside that you think might be able to break out and provide something for you. And without further ado, let's hop right into the first one. The first name on the list, Fantrax ADP 150.7, so sneaking in over the line there. Yahoo 169.3. It is Bowen Byram. You've heard us talk about this guy. I think pretty much everybody here at Apples and Genos is high on Bowen Byram. I've got him projected for 14 goals, 50 points, 161 hits, 95 blocks. Blake's got him for 13 goals, 45 points, 161 hits, and 96 blocks. Bang on.
Synergy.
Oh, you love to see it. So basically, you've got a guy here who hits a ton. He is projected for 45 to 50 points by both of us without ever seeing the light of day on the top power play unit in Colorado, because there's a certain guy whose name is Cale Makar that exists in Colorado, and that kind of holds down everybody else. I know everybody else is super worried about Cale Makar's health, and if that's you, then you should be even more excited about Bowen Byram, frankly. But I think Bowen Byram is plenty exciting on his own with his current role. I think that, in both places, you're getting a potential 50-point defenseman in the back end of your draft, 13th plus round, like we're talking about. And he's going to fill up those peripheral categories for you, so you're getting that floor regardless. He's on a great team in Colorado, so you feel pretty confident about the points floor there as well. This is a guy who really can control offensive play in a lot of ways, and you do still have that contingent upside. If Makar ever does go down, then you think that Byram might see some increased time, some increased offensive minutes. And he might, even for a short time while Makar's out, he might produce at more of like a 65-point pace or something even more elite that you're just super over the moon. You got a guy who's performing like a D1 across your league, and you got him in the 13th round. I don't know how excited you are about Byram. I've been trying to take him everywhere. I tried to take him in my couple draft, but I did get Makar in that draft, so I decided that I couldn't really double tap the Colorado guys there. But have you been drafting any Byram so far, Blake? Are you thinking about drafting him in the draft you're in right now?
You know what? If he's there, I mean, this guy's amazing value, and that's why we're talking about him. He's a sleeper. I like to call these guys snoozies. All right, snoozies. We'll see if that sticks. I don't know. We can edit that in post. But yeah, Bowen Byram, to me, yeah, this is I love players that have value without power play time. That's like, he reminds me of like Evander Kane, right? There's a ton of value here, but he's not really getting a sniff of power play. I mean, he'll be on power play too, probably with Devin Taves there on the back end, but and he's third on the pecking order, unfortunately. Like, I think Makar's out of the game tonight that Colorado's playing. And yeah, Tate is power play one. So I think that's probably the way they'll go. But I just don't think he needs it, right? We're talking about a 50-point player, big time for riffs. And I think he's got acumen. You know what I mean? Like, if he gets a chance to step up, he will step up. And he's uber efficient, dude. That's what I love about Bowen Byram. So double-digit goals, crazy per riffs, and just access to those beauties in Colorado. I'm definitely looking at this man. I mean, his ADP is ridiculous. You got to get this man on your team. I love Bo Byram.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really is just a situation where you feel so comfortable with the floor there, you feel so comfortable with the peripherals, and then you get all of that contingent upside just baked in on top of it. So I think in sharp drafts, you're going to see people in on Byram, but I think in a lot of other places, people are going to be like, this is a third defenseman on Colorado, and they're just not going to be interested. But I'm fully content to sit there, like where he's going, you can draft him as your fourth defenseman. He sits there, he provides a good value in your fourth D slot, but if everything breaks right for him, you could be sitting on a gold mine, and that's exactly what we're talking about when we're looking at sleepers. Another guy that we want to talk about is Seth Jarvis. This is a guy that I had as a sleeper last year. I was maybe a little bit early on that call, but it looks like Jarvis is here to stay and here to stay atop the Carolina lineup. I'm pretty excited about a potential bounce back in terms of the shooting percentage and some other metrics for Carolina this year. I wrote about that in an article for Yahoo that you can go check out if you're interested. But Jarvis, I've got projected at a baseline 26 goals, 53 points. That's only with 16 and a half minutes average time on ice and 2 minutes, 15 seconds power play time on ice. So he's got tons of upside from this mark in my mind. Typically, we haven't seen Rod Brindamore give younger players this kind of leash, but I think Jarvis might be that one guy who kind of extends his welcome in that range. You saw it in the playoffs. He was given a bigger role in the playoffs, and I think that could carry forward into the season here. I'd be really excited about Jarvis, and yeah, just getting a really solid chance, even if it's just for certain points throughout the season. Again, it's a similar case with Byram. Like, Jarvis, Fantrax ADP 198th and Yahoo 170th. Like, you're paying next to nothing to acquire this guy's services. He's going to provide you that back end of the lineup floor. And then if he gets the extra deployment, then all of a sudden you're cooking with gas. What do you think, Blake? What do you like about Jarvis this year? Do you think that he's got some room to grow in terms of the projection that I've got on him here?
Yeah, absolutely, buddy. I'm with you. I was, hearing lots of rumblings about this man being a sleeper last year, and I was on board with it. It just didn't really materialize because his shooting percentage was cut in half. What the hell? He was like 15% in his first and then 7.5 last year, buddy. No, that's showing no good. But I mean, he's staple to the top line. He's staple to Sebastian Aho, so he's top line, and he's going to get top power play. ADP after 150. What? No, we got to get the biz with this man. I love him for a sleeper. I've been talking about him a lot this offseason, just because certainly what he was able to do in the playoffs there and the increased role he got. So I just think that we were a year off on the breakout here. And it's interesting, though, what goes on in Carolina. Like, does Necas kind of move down the lineup now? Like, I've seen if they're going to get Jarvis on the top power play there, is Necas sort of the odd man out? I mean, what have you seen?
Yeah, that's what it's looking like. I was just checking out the latest tweets. There's a tweet from today. Svechnikov was off the both power play units, just putting in
Svechnikov.
some. Yeah, he was just putting in some work on the penalty kill apparently, and they were running both things at the same
Oh my
time. So
God, no.
he was off, and the top power play unit was Aho, Bunting, and Jarvis with Burns and D'Angelo still up there. So I think Jarvis, I saw before, even when Svechnikov was there, he was on the top power play there before as well. And so I do think that Jarvis has been one of the more consistent top
Mhm.
power play guys here. And I think that he'll continue to be in that role to at least start the season. We'll see. Obviously, Brindamore infamous among us in fantasy circles for shaking things up, but I do think that there's a really solid chance that he is gonna stick on power play one for the majority of the season at this point. And I wasn't even, when I did that projection, obviously 2 minutes 15 seconds average time on ice on the power play, I wasn't even factoring that in. So you can bump up that projection if you're feeling more confident based on these lines in the early season. And I think he's got even more upside. Just to go back to that point about the power or the playoff time on ice, he was almost 20 minutes a game
Yeah.
for 15 games in the playoffs. And while I don't expect him to have that kind of time on ice ceiling again, or otherwise I would have projected it differently, I do think that this is a player who earns some trust with that run, and I think that that's going to go a long way towards him, getting a few of those extra opportunities this year and potentially cashing in on them. All right, let's keep rolling and talk about Sam Bennett. Fantrax ADP 173, Yahoo 166. I've got him projected for 28 goals, 62 points, 191 hits. This guy bangs.
Beefer.
Absolute beefer. 18 minutes average time on ice and 2 minutes 45 seconds power play time on ice. He basically was an incumbent on the power play for the Panthers in the playoffs, and I don't really have a strong reason to disbelieve that that'll be the case. I know Verhaeghe had a big season, but he was having the big season while Bennett was getting top power play over him. Like that didn't seem to matter much to Paul Maurice at the time. I don't know why we would assume that it would matter to him now. They haven't really, as far as I've seen, there hasn't really been much of anything coming out about their power play lines. Bennett's been all around, and it's just been kind of a mess. Like Luosterainen has been practicing, Rodriguez has been practicing on the top power play. Like it's just been totally crazy the way that things have been running. So I'm really not sure that we're gonna see anything like what their theoretical power play lines have been. I think they're just throwing everything into a blender and seeing who's looking good in different spots and different roles on that power play at this point. So when it all shakes out in the end, I am kind of expecting that Bennett's going to get first crack at that. And if he does, then you're talking about a really solid power play. Obviously, Barkov, Tkachuk, two guys that I've got 100-point projections on for this season. Even if it's not Montour on the back end, obviously, to start the season, I still like I like Forsling if it's him. OEL can still distribute the puck. He's done that for many, many years. I don't think he's a difference maker at this stage in his career, obviously, but he's going to be able to get the puck to the people who need it. And then Reinhardt, who we've always liked a little bit more than consensus here
Yep.
as well. So I think there's all the pieces there. And if Bennett can be that fifth piece, that fifth wheel on the power play and kind of lock down that role a little bit, then you're really talking about someone who's is a beefer and can actually provide you some really solid point production as well. And going this late, that's the definition of a sleeper for me.
Yeah, it's always surprising to me that Sam Bennett's still there. Like I've got him in a lot of spots. I got him in Cupful as well, like way late, like 170 or something like that. Like just what is this man still doing here? Like we saw what Florida did last year. And what they didn't do, which was convert really at the rate that they should have been, right? And Bennett's the poster boy for that. Like his shooting percentage in that big season in Florida, 2021 was 11.6, and he only shot at 8.3% last year, right? So that's at all strengths. Come on. I think we can all see, like, you brought a new coach in there, right? The team's kind of trying to figure things out, and Bennett is stapled to that top six. I don't see him popping out of there. And then again, kind of like Jarvis, he played 20 minutes and up average time on ice in the playoff run, right? So this guy's built to do this, right? He's a great player, and his metrics are solid as well, right? He shows out in the metrics that we like: shots on goal per 60, scoring chances, all that. So I think there's going to be an increase in efficiency, and I'm here for it. I love Sam Bennett, and at his ADP, what the hell are we doing? Come on, Nate.
Absolutely. Love Sam Bennett. He's actually always been somebody ever since he got to Florida. He's always been somebody who
Yeah.
shows up well in my projections, and I've drafted a ton of him as a result. I always got time for Sam Bennett on my teams for sure. The fourth player here is going to be Jakub Vrana. Not going to be a surprise, probably, to most loyal Apples and Genos listeners, a guy that we've talked about a lot. Guy that we correctly called could have a really solid role in St. Louis after the trade deadline. If you go back and listen to our trade deadline show from last year, absolutely nailed that along with the Rasmus Sandin pick. We said Vrana and Sandin were the two guys to pick up after the trade deadline move shook out, and we were absolutely right on both counts. A little pat on the back for ourselves there. But
Nice work. Nice work.
Vrana's a guy that I got a lot of time for. I've got a hearty projection on this man. 36 goals, 60 points, and that's with 15 minutes, 45 seconds average time on ice. This guy has always been a massive shot and chance generator and a high percentage converter at the same time, basically everywhere he's gone. That's with just 2 minutes and 30 seconds average time on ice on the power play. I will say that we got some news today. First day of special teams for the Blues was today. Top power play unit is Shen, Kyrou, Buchnevich, Thomas, and Torrey Krug. So Vrana is on the second unit, unfortunately, to start. Yeah, it's anybody's guess how long that lasts, but the Blues again are this team that will split their time on ice on the power play pretty evenly, and so I just think that he's going to be one of these guys who gets a fair amount of it and gets a little bit more. Like I would expect like him and Shen, right, to be in the same
Yep.
ballpark in terms of power play time on ice. I'd expect both of them to have about 230 at the end of the season. Kyrou, Buchnevich, Thomas, sure, those guys are probably going to be up around the 3 minute mark. But Vrana and Shen are kind of like that next tier to me, where they're probably going to be the next two guys in the pecking order, and they'll probably get rolled around whenever there's an injury, all those kinds of things. It all kind of plays out that way. But St. Louis definitely does flatten out their top two power play units a fair bit. And so, regardless, the projection comes out really strong for Vrana.
Yep.
187 is his ADP on Fantrax. He does not have an ADP on Yahoo, basically going undrafted in most drafts over there. So definitely a guy you can kind of have for free. He kind of lost his left wing, right wing eligibility. He's left wing
Right.
only right now, which is kind of sucks. It has actually prevented me from drafting him where I would have drafted him in a few spots. But again, this is a player where I'm just willing to bet on the upside this late in a draft. If you got a deeper draft, if you got that left wing spot open late, and just see where it goes, because we've been talking about it. Other podcasts have been talking about it as well. This is a guy, if he does get the minutes, like you can just see the powers of multiplication working in his
Yeah.
favor, where he's got 40 goal potential written all over him. It's really just, can he get on the ice and stay on the ice for the time that is required to actually hit those kind of heights, which has been his Achilles heel so far. Thoughts on Vrana, Blake? Have you been able to nab him anywhere?
Oh yeah, buddy. I've been all over Vrana because no one is looking at him, especially on Yahoo, because he's not ranked, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you have to literally search his name to pull him up. So I do that every time I go into a draft. And yeah, we haven't seen a full season of this man. He obviously came out of the player assistance program, so hopefully everything's all good there. But he's another player, kind of like Bowen Byram or Vander Kane, who I don't think he particularly needs that power play time to pop off. He's a timely scorer. He's an efficient scorer. And I think that the situation could be right. Also, he's next up on that power play, right? If one of those guys
Mm-hmm.
goes down, I don't see why they wouldn't put Vrana on there. He was taking reps on power play one early on in training camp. So I think they like him there, and he's just an efficient player, right? And the metrics show out. So I want to see 82 games. I've got a pretty beefy projection for this man as well. I think I got him for, oh God, this is insane. Yeah, 37 goals. That's a little spicy, but, I think it's there, right? I got it for 37 goals, 61 points. So, and that's only with 18 power play points. I mean, that would be a lot for him, but that's low ice time, right? If he starts being featured a little bit more, right? Well, it's a long season, and he hasn't played a full season in such a long time. So I'm very excited about the player, and it's a mash that button if he's there at that ADP. My God, pick him up.
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of Vrana. I'm gonna die on that train, I think, at
Yeah,
this point.
yeah,
He
you got me onto
definitely,
him. So now I'm not getting off.
absolutely. Yeah, definitely a guy who shows out in all the metrics that we really like. Yeah, top 60 in the NHL in even strength individual scoring chances for last season. He always has that kind
Love
of
it.
ratio that makes you believe in the shooting percentage too. Yeah, I'm just all about Vrana and his potential. It really just seems like whatever goes on behind the scenes, it's been enough to keep him out of the top six in a lot of cases and the top power play unit in a lot of cases. Just doesn't seem to get that respect, I guess, as an offensive player from coaches. So maybe he's got some defensive deficiencies that we're not really tracking here, but maybe there's a few reasons why he might not be getting those opportunities. But if and when he
Right.
does, I just want to have that shot. If and when it happens, I want to be all over that because it will happen someday. I feel pretty confident, and I just want to be there when it does and be able to tell everybody I told you so.
We'll be there, buddy.
All right. Number 5 on this list is Adam Fantilli. And this is a bit of a departure for me. I'm usually not bullish on rookies, but I think Fantilli's got the mix here where he is being talked about definitely in, some higher class, yeah, fantasy hockey circles. I would say he's got a Yahoo ADP of 158, so he's not going unnoticed. Fantrax 211. He's actually further down on Fantrax, which is pretty surprising. I've got him projected for 21 goals, 50 points. That's on 16 and a half minutes average time on ice and 2.5 minutes average on the power play. Just going to talk about quickly about his hockey prospecting model, since obviously we don't have NHL stats to really talk about. He has a 77% chance of becoming a star by that model and an 82% chance of becoming a consistent NHLer. His comps on that model were Marco Rossi, Brian Ralston, Robert Petrovicki, and then Dale Howardchuk and Pat LaFontaine at the end. If you're
Ooh.
old enough to remember those two, those are some pretty juicy comps. So I do think that there's a pretty strong scenario here for Fantilli in that Boone Jenner hasn't been the picture of health. There's been some questions about his back over the past years. And, there's some reasons to think that there could be an opportunity for Fantilli to get up on a kind of top line, top power play scenario at some point throughout this year, even if it isn't right out of the gate. He's a big dude. He's got the man-sized body. You're not worried about him getting pushed around by NHL-sized defensemen.
Oh
That's not
my.
going to be a problem in his game at all. And so I just think that there's a ceiling case here where, like it would not shock me if at the end of the season, Fantilli is right up there with all the big time Calder names. I would never project him to go off for more than Bedard. I think they're on totally different tiers as prospects, but I do think that Fantilli's situation is markedly better than Bedard's is, and that could buoy him some and make him a real value at this ADP. What say you, Blake?
Buddy, I love it. Yeah, this is a case too, because like I'm with you. I'm not in on rookies. It's not something that I like to do because I like safety. But I mean, things change once you see the guy play, right? And we've seen this guy play and he's okay. All right, this guy looks good. And he's gonna get some really good deployment, right? I think power play one is his right off the bat. Right off the bat with great players, right? So that right there, I think is going to smash the projection I had for him. I had him for 41 goals. I think probably going to be closer to like 55. I bet he could do 55 with ceiling even. Like, I mean, we still have only seen a few games here. So, yeah, like you said, man-sized body, giggity. But that makes a huge difference. Like this he's very comfortable playing these guys, right? And I think he's got a good head on his shoulders too, just in some of the interviews I've seen. And that's kind of, low-key way that I evaluate rookies, how they sort of present themselves, right? And that's why Bedard just looks unreal to me. And Fantilli's right up there too. This guy looks like a beauty. He could be a beefer, and he's going to be playing with Patrick Laine most likely. And I think Kent Johnson's going to have a nice little season here too. He's a guy I've been sort of looking at. So yeah, I'm big on Fantilli, and he's dropping in drafts. I picked him up with my 17th pick in the 17th round in Cupful. Adam Fantilli, come on. Oh man, that's gonna win me the league there, my man. Thank you.
Yeah, I love that. Power play units yesterday. Gaudreau did not play in this game, but it was Werenski, Marchenko, Laine, Fantilli, and Bemstrom on the top power play over there. Fantilli was centering Danforth and Kent Johnson. So, yeah, if you believe in the Kent Johnson hype that's come from a few different places, obviously your chat with Corey Schneider, he was big on Kent Johnson. Johnson takes a step this year, then that top six really starts to look pretty dangerous, and you start to
Yep.
feel like they actually have a couple of lines there. Maybe they actually break up Goudreau and Line on the top line. Line's been skating at center
Yeah,
throughout,
weird. Just don't
which
take
is
Boone Jenner off the top line. For the love of
yeah.
God, don't do that to me. All right, don't do that to Boone Jenner.
That would be pretty tragic, especially for Blake.
That's a
But
good word.
we'll we'll see what comes out. But I just think that there's a bunch of scenarios that could play out here in which Fantilli actually has a really solid supporting cast, and he seems to be one of these guys who's just absolutely pro ready. Been playing against um, yeah, men in the NCAA. He's not coming from a junior league where he's been pushing around 17-year-olds. He's ready to go in my mind. So I really like that. Really like that Columbus was able to get him at third overall in the draft. They got to be ecstatic about him and the potential to have a true number one center for their franchise to go along with their two cornerstone wingers in Line and Goudreau. All right, let's keep rolling. Let's talk about number 6 on the list, which is Andrew Mangiapane, the player that Blake rolled his eyes at when I added him to the list. His Fantrax ADP is 230th, Yahoo 171st. I've got him projected for 35 goals, 58 points, 17 minutes, 15 seconds average time on ice, and 2 minutes and 30 seconds power play average time on ice. So, Blake, tell me why you hate Andrew Mangiapane so much, and then I'll tell you why you're wrong.
All right, I got no hatred for Mr. Eat Bread. All right, it's just boring. You know what I mean? That's more. It's like the equivalent of Brock Nelson, right? And eventually, you can't deny it. You have to be like, all right, Brock Nelson's good. He's a good fantasy player, and that's probably the case for Mangiapane here, right? Like I'm interested to hear your take on Mangiapane because he's not someone I've been targeting really. But there is some things looking up here, right? We just found a tweet. We found a random tweet where he's getting top line billing there with Huberdeau, right? So Mangiapane there with Huberdeau, I think that would be great. And he's going to moonlight on power play 1 throughout the season. This guy's obviously a goal scorer, so I think there's a good chance we could see 30 goals from this man. I actually have him projected for 29 goals and 52 points, right, in 16 and a half minutes. So that's a nice little projection. But I mean, what's his ADP again, Nate?
On Fantrax is 230, on Yahoo 171.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, Calgary is going to bounce back big time, and this guy's going to be in the wheelhouse there. So I can definitely understand the pick. And yeah, I'm kind of interested to hear your thoughts on what you like about Mangiapane. I mean, 30 goal scorer right there at that position. That's almost enough said.
Yeah, I think there's a few things here. I think obviously you have the departure of Tyler Toffoli, who is a central piece of the power play there last year. We'll see, obviously, if Mangiapane is able to work his way into the top power play. We've seen some looks where Sharon Govich has been on the top power play unit. I mean, we've seen it with Sharon Govich. He's produced with good players in the past. I do not think that Sharon Govich is a difference maker in any sense of the word. I think Mangiapane is just a really efficient player. He's not a massive volume shooter, but he's been a wildly efficient shooter in every season of his career except last season, which I think is why most people are down on him.
Right.
The 2 seasons prior to last season, he had a 19.8% shooting percentage and an 18.9% shooting percentage. Even if you go to the season before that, it was 15.6. Like, this guy has a track record of being a really high conversion player. And then last year he comes out with a 9.3%, which is just atrociously low. I can't anticipate that anything that low is going to happen again for him, especially if we're believing in some kind of bounce back for Huberdeau and he can get some exposure to Huberdeau. If he gets on that top line, gets a little bump in ice time at even strength because of the disappearance of Tyler Toffoli, I just think that there's a lot of ways. Again, when you talk about sleepers, right, you're talking about guys that people are not drafting. There's a reason people are not drafting them. You have to hold one eye closed and squint a little bit to think about what these guys might be in the right situation. But in a situation where Mangiapane is getting 17 plus minutes a night, where he's getting looks on the top line in some exposure to Huberdeau, where he's getting looks on the top power play throughout the season, I do think both of those things are pretty likely based on what we've seen even so far in training camp. And so whenever I have a player who's this efficient, and I have a player who has a real potential to just get more of a role, then those are the two kind of concoctions that I'm looking at. You mix them together and you get a guy who actually could be a really extreme value if everything goes right. Like, how many players are you drafting at pick, what did I say, 230?
Yeah, in the 200s.
230 in the 200s that has 35 goal potential, right? There's just not that many of them. And so Mangiapane's that guy for me. I will stake my flag on this one. I did not
Oh
think I'd
my
be the
goodness.
high guy on Andrew Mangiapane this year, but here we are. Andrew Mangiapane is my guy apparently for this season. So that's what I've got to say about that. Now, number 7 should come as absolutely no surprise to anyone who's followed Apples and Ginos for some
Let's
time. It
go.
is Ross Colton. We had
Yeah,
to. We absolutely had to.
this is our guy.
Franchise ADP 234, not ranked on Yahoo. I've gone for 26 goals, 50 points, 164 hits. That's on 14 and a half minutes average time on ice and just a minute and a half of power play time on ice. Not projecting any major role for this guy whatsoever. Just projecting that it's a slightly better offensive situation that he's going to find himself in, and he's actually not going to just get relegated to fourth line duty. We have proof of concept again. I talk about this in a lot of different contexts, but whenever I see a player get a chance to perform and he absolutely performs, Ross Colton had that chance with Steven Stamkos, not this past year, but the year before. Got up on the second line with Stamkos as his center, and he absolutely took off. And I think that this is a guy who is going to get a new chance here in Colorado, which is a terrific situation, as we all know. It looks like in the early going, everybody's thinking that he's going to be the third center on this team. That definitely could be. Definitely not discounting that that's maybe the most likely situation in the early going. They do have Ryan Johansson there, and then obviously Nathan McKinnon. So if they view Colton as a center, then 3C is probably where he starts. But I mean, there's a lot of different ways that they've shuffled these top lines. Everybody's talking even about like Drouin, McKinnon, Rantanen as being totally
Yep.
locked in for the whole season. They've not even locked in McKinnon and Rantanen together for the whole season at any point. If you've paid attention over the last few years, they've played mostly together, but they have definitely shaken those lines up from time to time. Rantanen's played center when needed. They've done a lot of different things. And so it would not shock me if there are times when Colton's in that top 6. Would not shock me if, this could be the Nazem Kadri season, right? If everything goes perfect, where he finds his way onto the top power play through injury or otherwise, and he becomes that kind of Kadri player and has a Kadri-esque season. Not out of the range of possibilities. In the meantime, he's absolutely going to hit everything that moves. 164 hit projection. So he's going to do that for you in the meantime. And I just think that you can do a lot worse than adding Ross Colton, at least to your watch list in a deeper league. Add him to the bottom end of your draft. I did that in the Apples and Ginos Patron League, which is a Bangers Cats situation where we're starting 3 center, 3 left wing, 3 right wing, plus utility. So it's a pretty deep league. And I added Colton at the bottom because he is going to give me those hits, get me ahead at that. He's center, left wing, dual eligible, all these things we love to see. And I think he's going to be super efficient on this team. What do you think, Blake? Am I still too high on Ross Colton? Am I just madly in love with this man and he'll continue to be unrequited? Or do you think that we'll get something out of Ross Colton for fantasy this year?
No way, buddy. Not in love with him enough. All right, come on. Come on,
All
RC.
right.
Yeah, no, I'm stoked on Ross Colton. This is a no-brainer. We're talking about sleepers. We're talking about your last couple picks, right? This is a guy, he doesn't pan out. You say, see you later, my man. Thank you for your service, right?
Yeah.
But I just don't see that happening with Colton. First off, he's going to get more ice time than he's ever seen, right? Like his highest time on ice averaged 12 minutes, 48 seconds. I think he's going to smash that. We're looking at 14 to 16 minutes minimum, in my opinion. Colorado, obviously Jared Bednar, rides the top 2 lines. They get buku minutes. If Colton stays on the third line, he's still going to get minutes. They kind of their fourth line gets nothing, right? They get the scraps.
Yeah.
So Colton's going to get more minutes, and a couple things are falling into place as well. He's already scheduled or, lined up on power play 2. I didn't know if that was going to happen right off the bat. So bang. Okay. He's getting power play time now. Like, I just think this is a player I'm excited about. Obviously, in category leagues, this guy's a no-brainer. He's a major beefer. Beefer with cheese. He does that. All right. 188 hits last season. My God, buddy, calm the hell down. But yeah, I'm a big fan of this player. And if he gets a sniff in that top 6 there in Colorado, I think it's going to be lights out. We're going to see the same efficiency that he showed in Tampa, but he's playing with better players. I'm just excited. There is one knock on Ross Colton, though. It was Nate's birthday recently, and we tried to get this man to do a cameo, right? He's got an account on Cameo, and he just ghosted us. We paid money, and then he ghosted us. So Ross Colton, you're unnoticed, buddy. All right, we're singing your praises. I don't know. Hopefully, I mean, not hopefully, but maybe there was something personal going on, right? And we'll try again later. But buddy, you better pick up. All right, we want a Ross Colton cameo, and we want it now. Right, let's get the biz.
All right. Yeah, that would have been pretty sweet.
It would have been. Damn it. I don't know.
Come on,
That's
Ross.
fine.
What are you doing to me?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. I do have an honorable mention that I do want to add in here just because it's been a steady hype train all the way through the preseason here, and that is Zach Benson, the 13th overall pick in the 2023 draft for the Buffalo Sabres. Benson has been up on the Thompson line consistently, not just like getting a cameo look here and then off again. He's been consistently the third wheel on the Skinner Thompson top line for Buffalo. That is pretty interesting. I think that the most likely scenario here is still that Benson, even if he makes the team, is down, before his 9-game cutoff, goes back down to junior before then. But man, like if you're watching any of the highlights of this guy, he's tenacious on the puck, tenacious on the forecheck, and he just looks every bit like an NHL player right away. I don't know what they're thinking. They obviously have a few different guys in the pipeline that they're excited about, but Benson might be the best of them right away, even at this young age. And, I wonder if the Sabres, are sensing it might be their time to go, right? Like it might be their time to try to take down some of the giants. Vasilevsky goes down. The Bruins don't look like they did last year. Is it the Sabres' time to rise and shine? If Levi is all that and a bag of chips, can they actually take that step this year and be that team that puts themselves into the playoffs? And if that's how they feel, then there's at least a chance that Benson is just too good to be sent down and he actually is clicking. And I think that would really solidify the right wing slot, which actually was kind of a bit of a sore spot for them. Like Cousins on the second line didn't really have a consistent right winger to play with. There's Victor Olofsson there. They tried some of the younger guys. JJ Peterka was on that line at some points. Yep. They had Jack Quinn, who's injured right now. There's a few different ways that they went, but I wonder if Benson is just so good and they feel that they absolutely have to have him in the lineup and they have to go for it this year. I wonder if that doesn't come to pass. And if that comes to pass and he is playing on the top line with Thompson and Skinner, then, who's to say what the ceiling could be in that situation? That's one of the better situations across the entire league in terms of third wheel. So wanted to throw that one out there. Hockey prospecting, who I mentioned before with Fantilli, their model has him at a 70% chance of becoming a star producer, 75% chance of being a consistent NHLer. But the comps here are insane. It's Joe Thornton, Jason Spezza, Mark Savard, Alexander Barkov. Chris Gratton is the worst one, and he was a long-term NHL player and had some decent offensive seasons. So I really think that Benson is a real talent. I took him 5th overall in my dynasty draft this offseason.
Love it.
So I've got some skin in the game here with Benson as well. I'd love to see him actually be that guy, but we shall see. I just wanted to throw him out there and say, I think this is a guy you got to at least be adding to your watch list right now. If everything breaks right, could legitimately be a league-winning type of player. I do believe that. What do you say, Blake? Are you interested in Benson? Can I interest you in one Zachary Benson?
Damn right you can. Buddy, this kills me because he was there when the Canucks drafted. He was there. We're like, Benson, let's go, ZB. This is the pick. They let him slide. They picked Tom Willander, who's probably going to be a great, third defenseman on your team. Thank you for your service. God, this guy's elite. So, I mean, if he stays on that top line, like he stapled to Tage right now. And he has something crazy, like 4 assists or something. Like he's been lights out. And could you imagine a better landing spot for a rookie? Like, you got chemistry with these guys, and then you drop Skinner down to the second line there. That's nice. I think that's sort of what they've been doing.
I think
Just
it's
great.
been tucked
Or is
to
it
the
Tuck?
second
Oh,
line.
okay. So
Yeah.
Skinner's with him. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. He is a right winger. Yeah. So, but still, then you're shoring up that second line, right? So,
Yeah.
it's a great piece. And yeah, I'm excited about the player. I'm definitely going to be looking at him if they start the season with him. It makes total sense, right? Jack Quinn is injured, right? He's not coming back. So there's some room there. There's some space. But if they're going to give him the first line treatment, damn. All right. Get this man on your team.
Absolutely. All right. Well, before we get out of here, do want to take a second, make sure that you check out the show description and hop into the Apples and Genos Discord. Over 800 members in there now, all talking about fantasy every second of every day. If you are interested in having personalized advice directly from me, I promise that I'll answer every question that one of my patrons has. So if you want to do that, check out the Patreon in the show description. You can sign up for $5 a month, and I will answer all of your questions to the best of my ability. While you're here, if you're on YouTube, throw us a like and a subscription here. That would be awesome. If you're on the podcast, if you could just give us a quick 5-star rating as this thing wraps up, that would be terrific. That's all we've got for this episode, though. Hopefully it brought you some value, helped you get a little bit better at fantasy hockey today. Many thanks to the band there for supplying the music for the podcast. Be sure to check out their Spotify as well. All the advanced stats you heard today come from Natural Stat Trick, a terrific free resource. And that's it,
Lovely.
folks. Much love.